So I definitely didn't go to Vegas looking for any sort of creative breakthrough. I actually went for a wedding. My best friend was getting married, and I just wanted to be there to celebrate her, and of course, take a break from my usual routine. What I didn't expect was how much the trip would actually reset me, like pretty deeply as a designer, as a creative. Honestly, kind of even as a person. It wasn't the usual kind of inspiration. It wasn't like a Pinterest board or like the fancy branding workshops. It was a lot of neon lights, massive mozzarella sticks, and just being surrounded by people who loved each other. And somehow, in the middle of all that, I kind of felt like myself again. So here is what Vegas taught me about creativity, connection, and how to feel more like a whole human when I am designing. Okay, first up, Meow Wolf's Omega Mart. If you've never been, just kind of imagine walking into a grocery store where nothing makes sense. The avocados have eyes, the soap is singing to you, and behind the milk fridge, there's like a portal to another dimension. It was weird, it was hilarious, and it was one of the most creative places I have been to in a very long time. It definitely beat out a lot of like the art museums that I was tempted to go to. I'm really glad that I hit up Meow Wolf's Omega Mart first. I actually booked the scavenger hunt, and I was able to go through the exhibit, and it had me kind of climbing through tunnels and like decoding clues, and as well as poking around the fake employee break rooms. The whole time, I just kind of felt like a kid playing in a big sandbox. Sometimes I kind of forget about the sense of wonder that people are supposed to have, especially as an adult who works a 9-to-5 job and tends to prioritize deadlines over the creative flexibility. It's also because I'm usually deep in strategy mode. I'm thinking about brain archetypes, messaging frameworks, and just how to make things make sense. And don't get me wrong, I really enjoy strategy work. It is definitely within my element. Building systems is something that I love and I will always continue to do until I can no longer work. But the Omega Mart kind of reminded me of that creativity isn't just about logic, it's also about surprise. It's about letting things be playful and strange and a little bit messy. That's something I want to bring back to my work and my life more often. Curiosity over control, and that's kind of where the magic happens. Then there's the and listen, I thought that I knew what Vegas really was. I grew up watching what Vegas was through Hollywood movies in the early 2000s. I really anticipated it to be loud, bright, extra, just all over the place. And being there in person, it was even more than that. It was a full-on sensory overload. There was giant screens, there were street performers, and of course there were people in wedding dresses at 2 a.m. It was a lot. I really enjoyed it though. Still, there was something oddly beautiful about the chaos. Right after being in that chaos, we ended up in this kind of like tiny vintage chapel for the wedding, and it was a completely different vibe. It was quiet, it was romantic, and it was just kind of off the beaten path. And standing there, I kind of realized this contrast. It challenges the assumptions and biases of Vegas. Vegas was only glitz and glams, at least in my mind. Everyone has an assumption of like what good design is and what a designer should be. Personally, I find that the best design understands how to balance and communicate contrast to audiences. In marketing, this is kind of done through speaking on customer transformations. With contrasting elements, you can also create fuller pictures or just a more well-rounded brand by having personality traits that would kind of be considered opposites of one another. Think like energetic but grounded, playful but professional, or even reserved but vocal. This world is painted in shades of gray, with beautiful contradictions that make our experiences so unique. Clashes, conflicts, contradictions, that's what makes a story and a character so interesting. because it directly challenges our instincts to think within the box. It's okay for things to be big, layered, and a little bit wild, as long as it's coming from a place of honesty and authenticity. It's okay to let your work be a little much, because that is where your soul is living. Okay, let's talk about food. Honestly, my favorite part of any trip. There was this spot called the Pepper Mill, and I would picture velvet booths, neon lights, and portion sizes that could feed a very small village. We ordered what I call cheese logs. They were very, very beefy for logs of cheese. And they were technically mozzarella sticks, but they were pretty big. We passed a bunch of plates around, and we swapped stories, and we laughed harder than what I have in quite a few months. At one point, someone was applying temporary tattoos at the table while we were eating a mountain of brownie ice cream. And in that moment, I kind of thought about how that is what creativity fully feels like to me, is just like this feeling of freedom and autonomy. Because creativity isn't really just about brainstorming or mood boards. It really is about being present in the story that you want to tell in the moment, trying new things, enjoying new flavors, savoring moments, and just letting your senses soak everything in. You're creating new experiences when you are in that creative mode. That joy is always going to show up in your work later. You just have to give it room to be there. Creativity is always going to start with joy, in my humble opinion. And joy comes to me when I'm eating dessert. So I guess that just means I have to eat more ice cream. Now, the wedding itself was absolutely beautiful. It was a sunny day. Everyone looked amazing. They were glowing. But more than anything, it was the people that moved me. Seeing my best friend say her vows surrounded by so much love and laughter reminded me just how important community is, not just for life, but for creativity and design. I know that we love to glorify the lone genius or the self-made designer, but honestly, 90% of that growth is coming from communities you are surrounded by. It doesn't even have to be a design and art community itself. Sometimes it's our friends that have the power to push us forward in our professional journey. At least from my personal experience, and I can't speak for other artists, my best ideas come from being around people who light me up inside. From the conversations, the shared moments, messy human connection. It also comes from shared play between other creatives, because we are acting almost as like a soundboard for one another, exposing ourselves to new perspectives and ways of problem solving. Creativity doesn't grow in a vacuum. It grows when you're nourished, when you're supported, and when you're seen. So if you're feeling a little drained, maybe you don't necessarily need more discipline to push through that burnout. Maybe you just need a community that supports you during the tough times. I would implore you to remember that you don't create in isolation, you're going to create within relationships. So before this trip, I was feeling kind of disconnected from my work, not really burnt out, but just a little bit numb in a creative sense. But Vegas kind of shook me up in the best way. It reminded me that living fully, which includes laughing, exploring, tasting, and connecting, is a part of my work as a creative and as a designer. It's going to fuel my creative tank that I can pull from to help myself and of course my clients grow as business owners. And I needed that reminder. I kind of get a bit isolated and trapped in my own bubble. So if you're stuck or you're just feeling kind of meh about what you're making, I would take this as a sign. Get out of your routine. Do something weird. Try a giant mozzarella stick. Go and see some weird art show. Say yes to whatever makes you joyful. Because your next idea probably isn't going to be in your sketchbook, it's going to be in your life and the experiences that you're willing to say yes to. It is waiting for you to notice it. Alright, if you're ready to bring more of you into your brand, I would love to help you. This is what I do. I help creatives and entrepreneurs build brands that actually feel like them, with storytelling, with strategy, and with soul. If you're ready for that kind of magic, go ahead and head to my website at spunkypsyche.com and book a free consultation. Let's build something real together. And as always, guys, if you enjoy this content, like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.